so this doesn't mean rotten tomatoes. Hey, you stink. My name is Mike Steffington, as Amy introduced us. This is Klaus Staden, and we're actually pretty excited about doing this presentation for you today. And I'm going to be the slide jockey, and Klaus is going to do about. Well, Klaus is going to take all the discussion.
Yeah.
So Klaus, go ahead.
All right. Well, this is my experience here. I'm Klaus Stady. I'm with Hunt Oil out of Dallas. Been with Hunt for 15 years. 3 years ago, I moved down from Canada to start this project for the master data management in Dallas. So I've been on this project for 3 years. Just to tell you a little bit about Hunt Oil. Hunt Oil is a private company. We've been in business for over 80 years. We've got operations in the U.S., South America, Europe, and the Middle East. And the oil master data management project that we're talking about today is focused on our U.S. properties. As regards to the scale, I think you're going to see in Mike's bio there that he's worked with some of the largest E&P companies, and we're not in that scale. But we've got less than 10,000 wells that we operate in our, we've got 5 to 10 rigs operating right now. So that just gives you an idea of the scale of the implementation that we have.
Yeah, and Amy gave my introduction. Long time in the industry, kind of a long tooth, if you will. And very, very excited to be working with Hunt. And you'll see a few of our other customers walk around the floor today. Pioneer, Anadarko, Apache, and a number of others as well. But enough of that. Let's go ahead and move in. So we'll talk about where we're going here.
All right. Well, I think I'm preaching to the choir here as far as data management issues that we had at Hunt Oil that really brought us to the edge where we needed to come up with an automation process for our workflows and for master data management. When we started this in 2015, our folks had noticed the exponential growth of data. And over that 9-year period on the graph on the right there, you'll see that our data had grown on a compounded annual growth rate of 50% per year. So our data was getting out of control. We also identified that we had 9 enterprise application silos. So I think that just gets back to the common theme here that everybody's got their data in their own systems and nobody's sharing it. And those isolated domains don't work together. And whenever we created new wells or anything in the system, it was always for manual data entry. I think the thing that ended up putting us over the edge was the inconsistent results. Back in 2014, we had several divestitures that we were doing, and whenever we had to go ahead and put together a well list for our data room, we'd always get different answers from all of our different systems. So reserves would say you have this many wells, and your accounting system would say this, etc. And our executive team could never understand why nobody knew exactly what we owned in any of the areas. And it's just because each system is only concerned about their own data that sometimes they have gaps where they aren't the specialists in that data. So that was a real driver for going ahead and going forward on this. And of course, at that time, the analytics are taking off, and we're having a real difficulty going ahead and doing our analytics. We're okay doing our analytics in the individual domains, so our drilling folks could do drilling analytics. You could go ahead and do your financial analytics, but we could never go ahead and combine the two because we wouldn't know how they were linked. And so we didn't have a common way to do that. And when people did link them, that knowledge stayed with them, which is, they go ahead and fix their project they're working on, link all the wells that need to be done, and then they move on to something else. And the next time somebody else did it, they do it differently, and it certainly led to a lack of trust in the organization as far as our analytics go. So those are the issues that really kicked off us going forward on that. So these are the really high-level goals that our management said that they wanted to see us do. Just to set, data managed as an asset. I think we saw this right off the bat this morning. It has value. Let's treat it like it has value. And when you're working the operations side, a lot of folks would just put the data in and move on to the next thing because they had to, in order to do their job, they had to make sure there was data in there, but they didn't have to make sure it was good or accurate data. So we wanted to change that culture. The single source for trusted wellheader that comes from our divestment fiascos. We were suffering through. And so that's just a matter of saying, well, somebody has to tell us what the real truth is. We have to have a single system for that. And we do, if we're going to have that, we want to make it so it's automated. We don't want to hear about people sending emails around and people typing in things multiple times and having different names in all our different systems. And we also realized that we needed to keep that up to date throughout the well life cycle. And the well life cycle started getting, some momentum here, that people realized that I have information at the beginning of the well, and it never gets told to me when things change. And we were really bad at sharing our information, so that if an operator changed or our interests changed, the key systems would know about it, but other systems wouldn't. So we needed to make sure that we were doing that throughout the life cycle. And if we're going to have a single source for our trusted data, we needed to make sure that all the systems got that back, because you couldn't have the single source saying that, hey, this is what the interests are and our partners are, and it doesn't make it back into the individual applications. So we had to make sure that it was a full circle as far as the data sharing goes, so that put it into the central repository, and then it would get communicated back to all the folks back there too. I don't know if you all had a problem with that as well as that our company did with the well data being shared, but a lot of silos were set up within the company that would prevent people from giving their data out. And so you really had to go through a certain person if you wanted to find out drilling information or reserves information. We want to make sure that it was really accessible. So where did we go from there? We decided to build our data management strategy. We got our key subject matter experts together and developed a core team to just talk about what we were going to do as a company. We actually had some outside consulting help come in and help us visualize what our data management solution was going to be. Put together a data management maturity model to just show where we were compared to other companies as far as the maturity of our data goes and where we wanted to go. And this is really useful for us as far as explaining that we can't just go from where we are really bad to where we want to be really good in a short period of time. We have to take all the right steps to get there. And that was a real good communication tool that we had there. Once we did that, we really had to decide what we could do internally and what we had to get help with. This was back in 2016, where the price of oil was maybe $40. And so we weren't going to go just write a check to somebody and say, hey, solve our problem for us. We actually had to go ahead and figure out what we could do internally. And that really worked out to our advantage, because once we started to try and solve our problems, we understood what we needed to do much better. And we came up with the ideas that we needed to understand our data and clean it up ourselves and fix our cross-references and work on our workflows, because we're the ones that own that and we're the ones that live with it at the end of the day. And we needed to change our culture. But we also realized that we couldn't do everything ourselves, and there's some good tools out there that we really need to consider as far as technology that could help us. We're certainly familiar with master data management within other industries, so we knew that would be a good technology option for us, and we also wanted to get some workflows that would fit our business needs as well. So that was stuff that we were willing to get from an outside source. All right, so this is doing our homework. So this is basically what Honeywell did to prepare for their vendor selection. We had to get our well list sorted out and cleaned up on our own. It's amazing for a company of our size that we didn't actually have a central list for our wells that says this is what it is. We went ahead and put that together. We prioritized that. So it's the 80-20 rule. We can get 80% of the value by doing 20% of the work, which is really focusing on our active wells. And once we got those sorted out, we could work on our inactive wells. But if you get a group of people together and you start talking about your master list, somebody's going to find out about a well that was drilled in 1972 that other people don't have, and it's been shut in for 30 years, and it's really not that relevant. Whereas all of your active wells, we really wanted to get sorted out early. And those active wells were the ones that were either had reserves assigned to them or were generating revenues for the company. So let's make sure we have those in all our systems. And once we had our well list, we wanted to cross-reference them to all the systems. The other key thing for our company was to go ahead and collaborate on our data collection. The project made us get together and work as a core team to talk about how we're actually using our workflows to create new wells. And talk about what is a well, or when is a well, and Honeywell, both of those questions. And we determined, when is a well is when we actually needed to spend money to generate a prospect. Because that's when we got to kick off an AFE prospect, that's when we got to go ahead and put in our land system, and that's also when our drilling folks want to know and get ready for it, preparing for it there. So we documented all of our workflows at that point. And we also had good discussions about the attributes. And I guess, one of the common questions you'll get from anybody that's looking at taking on a master data management initiative for the wells is how many attributes are you going to do? And that's when when you get together as a group of folks that are in your core team, you can decide which ones are important, which ones are the key ones that you really need to know, and do those ones first, just to keep it in scope. And once you decide on which attributes you're going to do, you actually have to decide who has the best data for that. And one of the funny comments that we had there is that one of the folks said, well, land's going to think they own everything. And then the land people came back and said, we don't want to know anything. We just want to know it from everybody else. And so there's really, just once you actually get people together, it breaks apart the uncertainties that people have about the data and who owns it. So the second part of our equation is to actually go ahead and do a technical MDM selection criteria. This could say our workflow as well. But basically, while we're cleaning up our data, we went out to the various vendors that we had the choice of working with and set up our criteria for picking our vendor. And we wanted to get an MDM system that was for the E&P world. You could go out there and you could find all other systems out there for healthcare or customer management relationship kind of systems. We actually had to find something that was specific for our E&P workflows that we have that need to support the multiple well levels. And the criteria that we have is listed on the slide here. I don't think it's any surprise, but certainly we wanted to make sure that we could answer all the MDM questions. The other thing that was a big concern for us, or just a big check mark for us, is to have the pre-built connections to our silos, our E&P enterprise applications. We've got our WellView, Aries, P2 Land, etc. And you want to work with somebody that's worked with those systems when you build your integration, that they've already done it before and they're not reinventing the wheel. And the last criteria here that we had was a way to get our new well workflow automated. And without this, our system would be out of date as soon as we started drilling again. We needed a way that when a new well got drilled, everybody got notified. So it goes to all the systems. So you don't send out an email, a trusty email to actually go ahead and tell people that, hey, we got a new well. It actually is a single source for putting the well in, and it automates that workflow for all the folks that create it. So for phase one, we didn't want to, boil the ocean. We really wanted to keep it contained to something that we could do within, a calendar year, within a budget year. So the scope was, we thought, was fairly limited, but it's amazing how quickly they grow. But it was just to create a well hierarchy-based list, a well list, automate our new well workflow, and migrate our wells into that new hierarchy that would be created by that software. We identified 50 attributes that we wanted to track right off the bat. And whenever you have the attributes, remember, you got to get down and define exactly what the attribute's going to be, the system of record, what the validation rules are for that attribute, what the alias rules are for that as well as it's going to each of the systems, and also know which systems actually want to receive that back. Because a lot of times folks may say, I can't change my data based off of what the master list says. They need to keep their historical values. And for us, so of the fully integrated systems, we had 4 that were in our first phase here. So our land, our AFE system, drilling, and reserves. So inbound and outbound, so the data was going in and it was getting written back, so it would have the same information as your master list. And reference systems means that we were just getting data from them, but we weren't able to write back. Our accounting system was in that, and we were getting data from IHS. Now the accounting system that we use is SAP, and it's not a real easy one to work with, and so we didn't want to do that in the first bite, but we did have a way to get data out of there and migrate it into our system. So we could at least look and see what the accounting folks had in there, but we couldn't write it back in the first phase. All right, so this is you can understand this slide, then you can kind of figure out what we did in our first phase. It's kind of our sausage maker slide, how we make our sausage. So it reads from left to right, but basically the general assumption here is that we've already gone ahead and loaded in our master well list. So we've got all the wells that Hunt has loaded into the software that we selected, the Energy IQ software, and we've got the cross references. And you've got the wells in there, and they got the Huey, and it's not listed on here, but it's a real key attribute for the Hunt people. That's our Hunt unique well identifier. So if you go to our area system, or if you go to our drilling system, it'll have the Huey in there to cross-reference it to a system. So any of our inbound sources here have a Huey, and what they're doing is they're providing data into the software, the technology. And so you'll see our main silos there, the land, drilling, etc. We've added one in here for our new well entry form. That's the workflow automation. That's how we keep our wells up to date. So it's just a form for putting it in there, and it'll create records in all the other systems for us. And we have just the IHS listed on there for our backdoor references, just to fill in information that we don't know. We're doing this for op and non-op. So if we have a non-op well and we don't have all the information, we can put in the IHS ID on that, and it'll fill in some of the information that IHS knows about that we don't. So data is going into the system here. Once it gets into the system, it goes through all these business rules, and if something fails in that business rule, so it does the quality measurement, the matching, etc., tries to get all the way through, you can either have a success or failure. So a success will keep on going to the right, and if it fails, it goes out, and we get a notification out to our data stewards, and they get a message saying you gotta go fix that. So if we have something that doesn't fit our formations list, or it's in out of range for a lateral longitude, they've got to fix it, go back into the source system and fix it again, and it gets to retry to go in there. The nice thing about that is it doesn't actually become golden data until it's a success case there. So once the data's in and it's proper, that makes up our golden record for us. And so that's a real key for us. Now we've got our golden data, but we're not done yet because we just have a list of our wells with the golden data. We need to share it out and complete the loop. And so this is the integration outbound, and that goes to our P2 land, WellView, AP Navigator, and Aries systems, and it also can be used and accessed by our analytics folks on the other side. I'll hand it off to Mike here to talk about the technical aspect.
My turn. So I've got a couple of slides to show off just kind of the back end, if you will, that was selected and put in place here. In this example, so one of the things Klaus talked about earlier was in the homework that they did, they went through and defined the master attributes and the source of record and the owners of those attributes and the definition of those attributes and where they fit within well hierarchy. Are they related to a well bore or a completion or an origin and so forth? And so building out a lot of that work, that's a lot of the homework that Hunt did prior to engaging with Energy IQ. And this then is what really, what you'll see in the next few slides is kind of how that gets put into the system, is so that it's not if you will, a black box. It's, again, back on some of the slides you saw earlier, they were looking for a solution that was a commercial, available, E&P-focused solution. So here in this example, and add in here some color, Klaus. Here in this example, what you see then is essentially what is the configuration for the golden record. And so if you see here multiple sources of data that are, if you will, providing information into the master environment, and then based on that sequence or source preference list, these data attributes, which are defined here, are then sorted or blended from these sources into the golden record. And then on the left side over here, you see what I'll call the hierarchy, perhaps the wrong word, but a build out, if you will, the configuration for how that system is being built out. So according to the Hunt data governance rules and procedures, policies, what they have is a default mechanism or rule set, if you will, for blending information from multiple sources across all assets. And then they had two larger categories for operated wells and for operated wells and for non-operated wells. And then within there, stages of cross well life cycle. So it kind of all feeds back into the what Klaus has been talking about earlier, is based on where the well is within its life. Is it in a planning stage? Is it in an appraisal stage, and so forth, approval stage? Based on that, you've got different sources of information bringing information in. You've got different owners, and therefore you have different rules for how you may want to take that data and blend it into a golden record. And so the system gives that, if you will, the user interface for making sure that that's all done, which also serves the purpose of providing the user community with the ability to have trust, if you will, because now they can literally see how the data is being assembled, what is the lineage of that data that they're using in that quote golden record, and what's being pushed back out to the enterprise and where it come from. So I wanted to illustrate a little bit about the environment. So as Klaus mentioned, and you saw on the sausage maker slide, these are the systems that were integrated with the first phase, so SharePoint, AFP Navigator, the LAN P2, and so forth. And each of these systems has an integration to and from, well, I guess 4 of them are both to and from, some of them are only 2, the master data management platform. And so they're kind of hub and spoke, if you will, in terms of getting data in and getting data out. And the way that works is you've got, if you will think about the process, you know, there are changes to the data that take place out in the environment. Those changes take place maybe because of a process, or because there's new information added into a system. Maybe there's a new spud date, or there's a new rig date, or the well name has changed, right? So those are changes to the master attributes that need to be captured and reflected across the enterprise. And so the system has a mechanism for recognizing when those changes take place and capturing that. So what we call the producing agents, if you will, they detect those changes. So they're watching those or monitoring those systems for events that take place. An event is a new spud date, new well name, change of well name, new location. Right? These are events that take place that cause master data to change. And so those are configured to monitor those for those events. And then based on that monitoring, then that information, the change set, if you will, from that source is routed into the master data management platform via a queue. And as you saw in the sausage maker slide, the big green box where it then runs through all of its process for creating a golden record. So that includes data quality, the data transformations, because not all the systems have the same reference data. There are also transformations with regard to coordinate reference systems or units of measure and those sorts of things, so that you've got a common repository, and then the golden record is created. And then once again, if the blending of that data has created an update to the golden record, then that in itself is also an event that has changed the master data and needs to propagate back out to the enterprise. And so there are, again, a process, if you will, to detect those changes in the master and then promote those back out to the targets. And so there are applications, if you will, that subscribe and publish to this environment, the ecosystem, in order to keep the data coming in, keep it consistent, and route it accordingly out to the right places. And those right places are, as you see, they're systems, so P2 land, Aries, and so forth, but it's also reports and emails or text messages, right? So it doesn't always have to be another system. It can be, again, a workflow process that informs or creates a report of some sort. We'll talk about that here in a little bit as well. And this screen here then takes that concept of events that take place in your environment and the configured activities that have to take place based on that event occurring, and who are your subscribers, who are your targets, and what exactly needs to move, what's the data that needs to move based on that. And so rather than, there's as you can see, there's a bunch of screens in here, but in this one what you see are the events and the activities associated to those events. So for example, here's an event ID that says, it's hard for you to read here actually, AFP drill is approved, and based on that, I have an outflow that needs to take place to Aries. And here you see the same event, and another outflow to well info, and then a third to well view. So based on these events, the system is configured then to take the relevant data for a target application, communicate with the agents, and transfer that data so the information is kept consistent across your enterprise. And what we're not showing here are all the other pieces around defining the attributes, labeling or defining the definitions of all the attributes, the subscribers, the targets, the events that take place like email distributions or reports, and those sorts of things. So the beauty here from a hunt perspective is that coercion amount. Is that this is, it's not a black box, right? And that was a very important thing from an evaluation standpoint, is to have a system that was configurable and manageable, and also that the general population could see, how's the data being constructed? Do I trust the lineage? What is the lineage? Where's it coming from?
Right, the other thing I would say on there is very granular, so it wasn't like you just had to take all or nothing. So it looks like a lot of lines that you have there to manage, but the beauty of it from an administrator that is the one that actually has to do all the work there, is that you can go ahead and find the specific line that you're looking for on a granular basis and say, I want that or I don't want that, and take it out of your system. And so it's really quite handy to have an administrator, and it builds the trust within the organization. You can say, this is how this specific attributes managed for your system, and not just all the attributes.
So we'll skip to the next one.
All right, well, this is kind of the bolt-on that we did to the Energy IQ for Hunt, our new well entry form. I think other companies would have something very similar to what we're doing here. But this is really the mechanism that we use to get a new well into the system for everybody. So our land team, when we say a well is a well, that means we want to spend money on it. They've got to go ahead and do their new well entry form. They put in their basic information. They have a certain minimum that they have to do so that all of our systems can create that record. And they hit submit, and it goes off and creates a record in our land system. It goes and creates an AFE for that, and it creates a drilling record for that, and it also links up to our reserve system too, so we have a cut case associated with that right off the bat. So right from the very beginning, 4 systems are linked together and working together for every well. So we're always going to be up to date as we go forward and drill more wells, and that's a real important thing for the company. And as far as the approvals go, we also need to be able to manage our workflow that says, hey, when we get the new well, we used to have a 220 process that says, hey, when it first goes in, send an email out to all these people because they need to know about it and take appropriate action on a new well, and then we need to do that when we get to the stake and permit stage. It's got to go to other people as well. And so all we need to do is through this new well entry form is the land person just goes ahead and manages the statuses as the information comes in, changes the status in there, sends out the email notifications to everybody, sends the latest information to them. Of course, their systems all have the latest data in there as well from TDM, and they go ahead and initiate the work that they're supposed to do at that time. And so for stake and permit, prepare the location and approve to awaiting drilling. So right up to the drilling process, we've got everything all centralized and everybody's notified automatically, and we all have the same information in all our systems. All the well names are the same, etc. And through this process here, you could be getting information coming in. So the permit came in, and our drilling group is typing in, an API number or whatever. It goes into the drilling software, gets put into TDM, and everybody else knows about that right off the bat, and they don't have to do anything. It's a very passive kind of integration for them. So the report folder structure that they have listed there is just the way that we manage what stage the well is in, and we can let people know as it goes through the life cycle where that well is. And in SharePoint, it has the ability to say, hey, there's a new file that's been put into that folder, and in SharePoint, it's real easy to go ahead and say, well, that file exists in the folder, everybody needs to be notified in this email distribution list, and it sends it out to them. And so not only does it go into your system, but you also know about it being changed in your system. So, hey, this well got changed. I got a notification that it got changed. Well, I wouldn't say we're really saying we have success. We went through the first year of pilot, so we went live in November, and this is what we'd like success to look like. So we're not saying we look at us, this is what success looks like. It's more like this is what success will look like. Hopefully for us in several years down the road we look back at this. But of course people are a big part of this. I think we have lots of discussions about culture and that. And we've gone ahead and appointed data stewards and made them responsible for data governance, and we recognize them for that. It's extra work for them to do, and they take pride in their data now. So whenever their systems are responsible as a system of record for data, it's up to them to keep it clean and to make sure it gets put through the sausage maker right. And so they're recognized for that, and they're a real big part of this being successful for us. The process of workflow automation. So now we've actually put in this workflow, this new entry form, and we're here to help. So hopefully, actually, we did help people. A lot of times when you say that you're here to help, they're shuddering, but I technology, you know, we like to think of that, you know, is set it and forget it. So hopefully, you know, all the stuff that Mike showed on his slides there, we'll look at it once, and you get it set up for your, you know, your initial implementation, and then you just tweak it as things change in your company, but it's not something you're managing on a daily basis. It's more of a static environment that you have. You know, success for us, and we didn't hear this, but you know, we went and talked to different companies when we were looking at our software options, and you know, one of the companies had said that their field offices actually called back and gave the feedback and said, where did all the mistakes go? And that's really what we'd like to have from our technologies, that it goes in, it corrects the data in people's other systems, and they come back and say, wow, you know, that needs to be always misspelled, and I have to change it all the time, and it corrects it. So I think as our data matures and we get, you know, 5 years down the road here, we get our data cleaned up, it's going to be a constant improvement process here. As people fix things, it gets communicated to everybody. So this is just, you know, real high level things here as far as what the business benefits are. The master well list is just really a huge thing for us here to say we have a single source for it now, and we trust one version of that. The workflows, collaborating, has gotten people talking at our work. I think there's more things that they want to do on that because they understand what people are doing now. We've got a workflow built. So we may revisit that again and look to make that better again in a few years. Establishing a culture of trusted data. I hope we get to that point. It certainly is nice now that when you go ahead and show people data, they've had a chance to look at it, and they stop questioning you, and that's really important. And you know, this is just a small piece. I know everybody's working on some very complicated problems here, but this just gives us an understanding of our own business, and hopefully this can be a foundation for us to get, you know, more of our data cleaned up in the company. So leveraging the investment is really just where do we go from here? You know, we've invested with Energy IQ. We want to keep going down this path here and continue to extend the functionality that we have. We haven't done the SAP program, our pro counts, our production system. That was we just got that at the same time we got the TDM software, so we left them out of the initial phase as well. K3 is our marketing software, so we'll get to that hopefully in the near future. Geoscience data management loaders, that refers to logs and directional surveys. So that's something that we're doing this year. We're going to go ahead and attach the logs as well, and you'll be able to see which is you know, the trusted well that petrophysicists looked at and his logs that he's got for that. This was a U.S. initiative initially here. We'll look at the international regions. We don't expect to get nearly as big returns because we don't have nearly as many wells we have to manage. We understand that business a little bit better, but we're going to go ahead and do that. And start using them all as a warehouse is also something that we want to do. We just haven't figured out how we want to go ahead with that at this point here. We're waiting for user feedbacks to see exactly how we want to communicate with the warehouse, but we're all set up for that because we do have a PDM data model. And you know, this was a well master data management. We could also do it on our equipment, our facilities, and our accounting folks like to do it on customers and that kind of information as well.
So there you have it. That's the last slide. So questions, I guess.